Alright, how is it going everybody? RazingHel here, and today I'm taking a first impressions look at The Wild 8. It is a survival game that was recently released into early access on Steam. And when I say recently, I mean as of the past month and a half or so. So I'm a little bit late to the show on this one, but I figured it was worth a look anyway. Now this is going to be what I said, a first impressions overview of the game. So I'm basically just going to give a rundown on what I think of it, as well as how it sort of plays in the earlier parts of the game. If you're looking for anything more comprehensive in regards to the game, this isn't it. On the forums or the discussion for the game I actually read, there have been several players who have played the game itself for like almost 100 hours, so I'm nowhere near on that level. In addition to this, I'm going to be playing the single player version of the game, and it should be noted that single player is different from multiplayer. So there are two different modes here. One's multiplayer and one's single player. Obviously, playing it by yourself is going to be a bit different than playing it with, say, for example, 3 or 4 other people. And that's why I think it is quite significant that I mentioned this, because otherwise you might be coming away from this with like a misguided perspective of the game, because I actually only played it by myself instead of playing with other people, which would alter the experience. So go ahead, load game. I currently have a few different games here that I can load. The music in the background is doing something kind of erratic. I believe that's intentional, but it's still a little bit nerve-wracking. So here is the most recent save that I have. The format is not the most intuitive. I'm not sure if I can actually rename the files or anything like that. Not apparently from the game menu. Let's just load that up though, and we can see how it all works. Okay. Yeah, so my tutorial quest is complete, and we're currently on another quest. So here I am, next to this plane. I have a little fire started. I have my charcoal burner right over there, and basically this is a lot of what the terrain is like. So it's this third-person sort of top-down perspective of the game, which keeps it, disconnected enough from the player. It's not like a first-person survival game or anything like that, but at the same time, it does allow the trees to get in the way, which I found to be rather interesting. At first, I was a little bit against the idea that the trees could get in the way, but now I actually think it adds quite a bit to the strategy behind the game. So you can tell it's pretty bleak in terms of what you're running around in. It's a lot of snow. You can rotate the camera. There's going to be a lot of snow around here, and it doesn't look that bad. They went for this very what would you call it? It's a style that involves the use of a lot of sharp angles. So it looks very polygonal, like a lot of polygons, but it is much more advanced than what you'd be used to with what is referred to like the PlayStation 1 generation, where they were making that transition into 3D. Yeah, so now the sun has gone down, so we're basically in the night cycle of it. And you might hear some wolves yapping and howling. That's not a big deal. And we don't actually need the campfire in this instance, because standing next to this downed plane will actually prevent you from freezing, which I think is a little gimmicky. Obviously, you can't stay in one place for too long, but just being able to stand here next to the plane and not have to worry about the fire is especially useful during blizzards, when the rate at which the fire expires goes down at this significantly faster. We have a couple of chests over here. This is basically where you can store extra items, so I've sort of been stockpiling there. We have a map. So this gives you an idea of what I've explored so far. There is a lot to explore here, believe it or not. One thing that I definitely did not especially care for was the fact that there's really no difference between a lot of these locations. You're going to be walking through a lot of very samey looking sorts of terrain to actually get to locations. Like, there are places of interest on the map. Right here, a couple of buildings. Right here is the other piece of the downed airplane. Minor spoilers, I guess you could say, sort of abound here. I have not delved too deeply into the story here. So there is, believe it or not, a story behind all of this, at least in single player. And I have gotten to the point in the quest where I'm supposed to find the generator. Or I mean, I have to find a place to put the generator. I found the generator in the crashed plane site, and then I also found another generator in one of these buildings. I have to find a place to put it, to use it, and I don't know where it is, because if you look at your active quests, they don't actually show you where to put it. Now, I think that sort of goes quite well with the rest of the theme of the game, being it is sort of a hardcore survival game. So we're looking at something a little bit more akin to what you'd expect in maybe the first two Fallout games, where your hand was not held every step of the way when it came to actually figuring out the quests. So we're going to have to explore this one ourselves. I do wish the map, it was possible to have a mini map on at all times, because the current system requires you to either have the map open or the map closed. If you have the map open, you can easily navigate the world. If you have the map closed, though, you're not going to be able to easily navigate the world. But as an alternative, it's much more easy to spot stuff like mushrooms to pick, or wild berries, or maybe even notice that wolf that's been creeping up on you. So there is some variety of wildlife in this game. There is some variety of resources. You saw the mushrooms. There's also a stone, like right there. Trees, so wood, stone, mushrooms. Mushrooms are food. Let's open the backpack. We can make or get meat from wild animals such as deer and rabbits. And then we also have the mushrooms. Okay, and then we also have herbs here. And herbs can be used at a camp or a workshop to craft them into a healing type of potion. So go ahead and collect those if you see them as well. Okay, so here we are back at the other part of the airplane. This is where I found the generator. There really isn't a whole lot to see around here. Well, except for very foreboding, cryptic messages like the character's giving me. Ooh, we have a wolf. Ooh, the wolf. Wolves are not good when you're playing by yourself. Yes, probably want to stay away from them if at all possible. Okay, here we have a rabbit. We have a rabbit and a couple of deer. The deer can be easily hunted simply by walking up behind them and whacking them. The rabbits, not so much, though. They really are faster than they have any right to be. And now you'll notice that after me walking around, there's a warthog as well. I'm not sure what these wild pigs have to do with sort of this northern Alaskan landscape, but they're definitely featured quite prominently in it. The day-night cycle. Right now, you can tell it's daytime. Why is this thing... That's a very interesting color. So once the night rolls around, your heat will start decreasing. Your player's heat value will start going down rapidly. So it makes more sense to create a camp. And you can create a camp usually, and I'm not sure I exactly approve of this, you can build a campfire. Unfortunately, you can't pack your campfire up. So no matter where you go, if you want to make a campfire, you're always going to have the remainders. Every time I made a camp somewhere, I can see where it was because the campfire is still there. You can't pick it up. Unlike other things such as your tent. Well, the chest can't be picked up either. Here we have a workshop. Let's put that down. And every time you move, you can pick the workshop back up and put it in your inventory, as well as the shelter. So there we go. It's like pitching an impromptu camp. I won't last long without food. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get this fire started. There we go. You can cook some meat on it. Oh, come on. Do it. There we go. That's nice. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and mine this rock. Now, there are different tools that you can use in the game, such as axes or pickaxes. And my inventory is full now because I equipped some stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and no, that's not going to work. Can we equip those? Yeah, okay. I equipped some shoes so that way I could pick up the meat. And now we're going to press F to eat the meat. The meat, once cooked, will restore some health and a whole lot of hunger. So now we really don't have to worry too much about that anymore. In the workshop, here you can see we can craft a lot of this stuff. It depends upon what level you are currently at. I have only upgraded my workshop to level 3, so the best I can craft are items involving bones, essentially. Bone axe, bone pickaxe, bone spear. I don't have any of these resources yet, such as the bones or the tendons, and apparently they require you to actually hunt down animals to do so. So instead, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you what it's like to craft some healing salve. I have the required resources, such as the northern herb, as well as the wood. So you have a couple of those, craft a couple of healing potions, just like that. We can stick them over there for now. We have fried mushrooms as well as uncooked mushrooms. So when you're at the camp at night, it can be useful to go ahead and use that time to, like I usually try to pitch camp next to some stone. You can use that time to mine some stone, chop some wood, cook some food, or craft stuff. If, however, you are in a situation where the campfire is going down really quickly, the rate at which it consumes wood, it actually can be more beneficial to go ahead and sleep inside the tent. So once you have the tent pitch, it's called a shelter. It's like a little tent. One of the options is you can sleep in it. It's going to cost you 20 wood and 5 stone. And by sleeping in it, this means that you're not going to have to worry about your hunger or your health decreasing while you're inside it. Now, obviously, in the vast majority of situations, that's not beneficial, but when a blizzard blows over, and it does fairly regularly, that is the best way to preserve your resources rather than having to spam. You're literally just throwing wood into the fire at that time during a blizzard if you're not sleeping. So yeah, you have to keep that in mind. There are different sorts of recipes. So like we have the wooden shoes and the wooden armor, and this can be equipped on your character like this. I have currently just the wooden armor and the wooden shoes. I got the wooden shoes back. The wooden armor apparently only decreases in durability when you're attacked, whereas the wooden shoes wear out based on how far you are walking. So now the fire has gone out, which means that my heat bar is going to start going down. And there are wolves out and about the woods. I mentioned running into one of them. The wolves themselves are quite intimidating. They're quite dangerous if you face them on your own. If you're just a single player and you face them on your own, they can easily kill you. So you probably want to equip a torch like that. They're afraid of fire, so swinging a torch at them a couple of times will usually drive them off. But the torch, of course, is limited because, you can't just burn a stick without having any consequences for holding that burning stick in your hand. But you can equip it in your inventory, so whenever you run across the wolf, it's not like immediate death sort of scenario. So once the night is over, we can go ahead and pack up stuff such as the tent and the workshop. Go ahead and back that up. I should have actually fueled this campfire up here a little bit more so that way I can increase my resistance to the cold. Just warm up here a bit by the campfire before heading out. And then we can look at another mission. Like I wasn't really certain where I should be headed towards. There is a lot to explore. I mean, if you take a look, this is the map all the way zoomed out. There is a lot of stuff here that you can potentially explore. And as I mentioned before, the game does have a campaign of sorts. Apparently it is not fully complete yet because the game, as I mentioned before, is in early access. But we can try to head over there towards one of those areas. Maybe we should try to explore something we haven't explored before. That would be heading in this direction. So, here we go. Here we have a building. Yes, I think I've actually been here before. Yes, indeed I have. This was where I picked up some peanut butter, I think. There was another location that had some actual, or it had a generator in it, but this was not one of those. This one, there really wasn't anything around here. And I was hoping that I would be able to use the generator here on this power pole. There's a power pole sitting right over here, but no, I couldn't. So, not exactly sure what this outpost is and why it would need any sort of power. But yeah, here we have a generator, and as you can see, not going to work on there. So that's part of the puzzle to figure out, I imagine. Let's try heading this direction. Revealed another chunk of the map. Apparently there's a deer right there. As you can probably tell, this is not the nicest way to have to navigate the world with a big map stuck in your face. Overall, the environments themselves I found to be a little bit repetitious. If you compare it to something like Don't Starve, where one of the great aspects of that game is how the different biomes really spiced up the actual traversing of different terrains. You didn't have to worry about seeing the same old stuff again and again. You could be assured that as you traveled along, you'd be going into different sorts of terrain, and those would have different sorts of consequences with them. Like you'd see different stuff there. That's really not the case here, which I found to be a little bit disappointing. Apparently I can walk under here. Look at that. Yeah, so I kind of got myself in a little situation here. Nothing of note in here, and I think that's one of the problems. Is there are some nice set pieces like you saw with the building, but overall they feel a little empty. Like there's really nothing special about finding them, and I wish that would be made a little bit more meaningful or significant. That won't last long without food. Well, let's go ahead and eat some more. In terms of hunting, I've mentioned before, I really wasn't going to cover it because hunting is, in this game, rather tedious. Be prepared for pretty much an afternoon-long chase of something like a deer. That's usually what I've been hunting for meat. So just wait until that deer stops, and then we're going to try to sneak it behind it. And, well, okay. Whack it. No! We're just going to have to wait a little bit again. I think the sun's going down already. And as you can see, based on where the trees are, it can be a little bit difficult to sort of track these animals. There we go. See, that gives you an idea. That's basically what I've been doing. You can also throw stones at them to stun them, so like that. Now you can see it's stunned, and I can take a couple whacks at it. Overall, that's probably more effective. Yeah. So if you throw some stones at it, you can stun it. And hopefully get a couple of whacks in. But otherwise, you can just sneak up from behind. The pigs themselves. Come on, there we go. There we go. Got some nice meat. I don't think it's a good idea to eat it raw. Yeah, well, I think I picked it all up. Okay, so it looks like we need to actually build a fire. Let's go ahead and get another fire built, just like that. And what else? I think there was something else I wanted to cover. There we go. Light it up. And then we can go ahead, close that. And we want to place down the shelter, perhaps. You can cook some meat over the fire, roast it over the spit, the workshop. So after a long, hard day of hunting, you can kick back and kick your meat all over the floor. So what was I going to do here? I guess we could sleep. Oh yeah, in terms of... that's what I was going to do. I was going to upgrade. So if we go over here to the tent, you can see right here is where my upgrades are. And upgrades are earned through experience, basically by doing stuff. For example, mobility is earned by moving around the place. And once you acquire those experience points, you can allocate them towards these various different skills. If you're not playing it on the easy difficulty, every time you die, this entire tree is going to be reset, and that can be quite significant because, for example, certain resources such as leather extraction, which, you need leather to craft a lot of this more advanced stuff, or you need tendons, that sort of has an experience barrier on it because it requires one of these three skills to be able to even have a chance of them dropping. And I think that is something I really don't like, is the addition of RNG into it, where you're not guaranteed a drop after killing an animal. So some games you could just really get boned because the game doesn't roll in your favor. To date, I have not, despite having these promotions, despite having all three of these, I have never had leather drop from a deer that I killed. I've never had a tendon drop, and I've never had a bone drop. And I have killed enough deer. Like, I've probably killed a total of 15 deer so far. Not a single time has any of that stuff dropped. So I sort of am like, I'm a little bit disappointed in that mechanic, I guess you could say. It feels a little bit unfair to me. Like, you can really just get a bad roll through no real fault of your own. Maybe you could say that's my strategy side coming out. Like, I'm somebody who likes strategy games, and that's not always compatible with survival games. Survival games have not always been, or they don't always cater to the player with strategy first in mind. I'm just gathering some wood there. I noticed that I was all out, and it looks like we are, it's 7 a.m., so pack it up and be on our way. And of course, I sort of made an impromptu base over there at the plane crash because, well, if I die, you'll always end up going back to the plane crash, so that's probably the best place to make a sort of impromptu base. But you're not going to be building a base as far as I'm aware here. The game focuses a lot on actual mobility for the player, and you're probably going to be seeing better results keeping on the move because then you're not going to have to worry about like running out of berries or running out of mushrooms or chasing all the wildlife away. So here we are in this building again. It is nice that they have these set pieces, as I've mentioned before. I think it adds some much needed variety to the game, but I wish it would flesh out this story a little bit more in these locations. Like, this is the perfect sort of scenario to have like a little event pop up, or at least give the player some additional text. But it wasn't. It was just a simple building, and then that's all there was to it. So overall, I think the game, The Wild 8, that's what the game's name is. It's in early access. I think it shows a lot of promise, and the price may be a little bit steep. Depends. Like, they want about $20 for it, so that's a little high, I think, for a game in its current state. But overall, it looks fairly decent. I like the general premise, and aside from some of the bleakness of simply navigating these large wastelands and the map, as I've mentioned before, I think it is a pretty good looking, pretty solid game. So I think that pretty much concludes my first impressions of the game. I've played it for about 4 hours now. And like I said before, I've been playing the single player exclusively until this point. This is the early access version of the game, and the game is likely to change as it continues to be developed. So just keep that in mind in case you're watching this in the future. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.